Well, Carter, got to give you full hat tips. Ernie Clement might be one of the best players on the Toronto Blue Jays right now.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. I'm Braden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Iwasco, Carter First 2 as well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. Drop a subscription if you're new here on YouTube. It really helps us out, keeps us at the top of your guys' page. And hit that little bell icon, I guess, on YouTube as well, so you're notified if we go live or, a special episode, anything like that. You guys will be notified right away. If you're listening everywhere else, we really appreciate it. And a couple of you guys have been asking for a Discord, so where we can, sort of converse and talk about ideas and about the Toronto Blue Jays in general as a bunch of Jays fans together. So we're going to try to set that up for you guys by Monday so we can put it in the episode description and you guys can join that. We'll also probably say the code on the episodes as well. When that becomes available. Couple things we want to go over today. Ernie Clement is an absolute rock star for this Toronto Blue Jays team, a guy that, I think started out in the shadow of Davis Schneider a little bit, but as this season's sort of gone on, he's come into his own. We'll talk about that, as well as the MLB pipeline for the Toronto Blue Jays has been updated. So we'll go over that and sort of see where we went over the top 10 last episode or 2 episodes ago. I can't really remember. But anyway, we'll go over the sort of remaining 20 in the top 30 prospects for the Toronto Blue Jays as well. A little bit of a game recap, sort of what went right this series for the Toronto Blue Jays. Carter, let's start with Ernie Clement. As I said, he sort of started out last season a little bit in the shadow of Davis Schneider's success. I think everybody knew that Ernie was pretty good as well. But I think with the hype around Davis Schneider, Ernie Clement didn't really get the recognition he deserved. Sort of moving forward, I think that's going to change and probably has started to change already. I've even around the ballpark seen a bunch more Ernie Clement jerseys, which I don't think I saw when we were even down there, Carter.
He's starting to make his spot on the Toronto Blue Jays, making his mark, and that's what you'll have to see. A guy that's pretty much IKF, maybe. Again, very debatable. He might be a little bit worse, a little bit better than IKF. IKF's a little bit, actually, they're about the same age. I was going to say a little bit older. But with Ernie Clement, he's one of those guys I always forget that he is actually a little bit higher up in age. A guy that has been throughout the minor leagues, throughout multiple different major league teams as well. But Ernie Clement is pretty much IKF. Like, you're getting the exact same player. They're doing the exact same thing. They're not striking out a ton. You're not getting the highest bat speed of all time, but you're getting a good bat, a good contact bat. It's going to put the bat on the ball in a lot of different situations and be a very versatile player. Ernie Clement can play second base, third base. He can play shortstop, as you saw in this last game. A pretty solid defender for the most part. Did have an unfortunate error in this past game that just happened. But I'm very confident having Ernie Clement literally play anywhere in the infield. Doesn't really matter to me. I'm going to be confident in his bat. I'm going to be confident in the way he plays defense, and just a great guy. You'll see him in the Hazel May interview today. Just appreciative of everything that he has. Obviously taking a lot in from guys like George Springer, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Daulton Varsho, guys that have been around the league for a long time as well. So a fun guy to have around your team. And credit to me. I was on this guy pretty early on in the season. I saw what he could do when he has the opportunity. Look at last season. He comes in with Bo Bichette on the IL, and he plays very well. Hits above 300. Not necessarily expecting that from Ernie Clement, but you're looking at this season's stats. He's doing just as good, if not better, over a longer sample size. Again, the average isn't quite there from last season, but average doesn't really matter necessarily that much in the MLB anymore. You're looking at so many other advanced stats. You're looking at his on base, his slugging percentage. You want to look at his WRC plus, things like that. And Ernie Clement has been an above average, or an average, if not above average hitter in pretty much all of those categories thus far in this season.
Yeah, so looking at Ernie Clement's stats from 2024, he's batting at .273 with 7 home runs, 35 RBIs. He has 8 stolen bases as well, which is nice to see. He's got an OPS of 709, Carter. And just to go over a little bit more, this guy, if you have to design a baseball player, Ernie Clement might be like the epitome of the creative player on MLB The Show. 28 years old, 6 foot, 170 pounds. He bats and throws right. I don't know, man. Like this guy is the ideal version of me and a way better looking version of me. So that was my goal. I mean, Carter talked about, going to the gym, getting back to it. And Ernie Clement is that guy. He's a fan favorite, just an absolute all around stud. Career in the regular season, he bats .250 with 11 home runs, 60 RBI, 9 stolen bases with an OPS of 638. Carter, I mean, we just take a look at Ernie's last 15 games here. This is what really stands out to me. 61 at bats. He has 19 hits, 1 home run, 8 RBI, batting a .311 with an on-base percentage of .344 and a slugging of .426. I mean, this guy, you really can't ask for much more than what he's giving you right now.
Yeah, like I said, he's pretty much playing every single day, and that's where he's going to be the most comfortable. When you're doing something all the time, when you don't take breaks off of it, it's just a lot easier to get into a routine. It's a lot easier when you're doing these same things that are going to make you a good ball player every single day, and you're seeing the live pitching. It doesn't matter if it's against the Los Angeles Angels. It doesn't matter if it's against the Baltimore Orioles. He's playing good in all these scenarios. And you look over his last 15 games. Those are the 15 games where he's probably played 14 out of the 15 games and looked very good doing it. And one thing that I was just looking over Ernie Clement's stats, this guy might just be the greatest first inning hitter of all time. Just put him in the leadoff spot, keep him in the leadoff spot for a team that had one of the longest streaks in MLB history in not scoring a run in the first inning earlier on this season. Maybe if they would have threw Ernie Clement in there, this streak would have been cut in half, maybe even cut in a quarter. But looking at Ernie Clement's first inning stats, he is 10 for 13 at the plate for a 786 average, a 1.077 slugging percentage, again, 786 on base for an OPS of 1,863. Just the greatest player of all ever to do it in the first inning. Getting the Barry Bonds of the first inning award for the Toronto Blue Jays. Just absolutely love to see it. Maybe this guy was built for the top of the order for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, and you know what? And just going off of some sort of ridiculous stats here, Ernie Clement with the bases loaded, Carter, is batting .500 with 2 hits and 4 attempts. But I think their narrative is out there with if the bases are loaded, get Ernie Clement an at-bat. Just some very cool things. Ernie Clement is, like I said, an underrated guy. I think doesn't nearly get the recognition he deserved. And part of that comes down to what we talked about a lot last season, or a lot at the before the season started early in the season, is getting him and Davis consistent playing time. And it never really worked out. Davis got a little bit more consistency, but it was still not perfect. Ernie got absolutely shafted. This guy would come in and play 2 games and then get sat for 5. It just didn't make a whole lot of sense. Especially when he did play, he was playing well. It's very hard to get anything really going when you're sitting on the bench for over half of the games. It just doesn't happen like that. And I know we keep reiterating, consistency, but consistency is baseball. If you can be a consistent player, that is what drives your value in Major League Baseball. And Ernie Clement has shown that he thrives when there is a little bit of consistency within the lineup.
100%. He is one of the best hitters on the Toronto Blue Jays at consistency. You're never really going to see Ernie Clement go through a phase where he's hitting like 150 with a 400 OPS. His floor is pretty high, and then his ceiling maybe not as high as some of the other players on the Toronto Blue Jays, but you need a guy on the team that's going to provide you consistency, whether it's defensively, whether it's on the base paths, whether it's at the plate, just in general on your baseball team. And when you're looking at Ernie Clement, if he is a utility guy, even if he's one of your bench bats going into next season, which is going to lead us into my next question, that's not a role that I'm going to hate having Ernie Clement do for this team. Ernie Clement has shown that he can be very versatile, even when he wasn't playing full-time and having those full-time at-bats. He's still a very serviceable bench bat. But just looking at what Ernie Clement does, when you have a guy that is a consistent hitter, that doesn't strike out a ton, isn't going to chase a lot of pitches, is going to put the ball in play, plays good defense, you're going to be able to find spots for these guys. Just looking at Kevin Kiermaier earlier on the season, got a ton of games just because he was playing gold glove caliber defense. I'm not saying Ernie Clement is that good defensively, but he's pretty close. I don't know if he's going to be qualifying for any gold gloves necessarily. He wouldn't. He's not Brady Wasco out there necessarily, but he is trying his best. He is an above average defender, and you can slot those guys in a lot of different places. But saying that, Braden, obviously there is 42 games left in the Toronto Blue Jays season. Only 9.5 games back of a playoff spot. Let's make a little run here. But looking at Ernie Clement just for a spot on the Toronto Blue Jays next season, There's a lot of debate on who is going to start in these middle infield positions. Obviously, you have Bo Bichette, who's still injured right now. First base, I would say, is pretty locked up. We could debate that if you want, but I'm pretty sure you'll be on the losing end of that. But you still have second base, still have third base. So there's two positions, but you do have a little bit of competition, as I said. So Ernie Clement will be up for one of those spots. Spencer Horwitz, who has shown in his limited playing time in the major leagues. Leo Jimenez, you have Will Wagner. You can maybe even have Addison Barger starting at third base. And obviously, you still do have the offseason as well. So how likely for you are we going to see Ernie Clement have a starting role, whether it's at third base, second base, wherever they do end up slotting in the end? Is it a possibility that he will get the full-time playing time for the 2025 season?
Yeah, so I'm going to make a point, but I have a caveat to my own point. Second base should be Spencer Horwitz. I don't think that there's a debate. That guy should be playing there without question. You want his bat in the lineup, more so than anybody else, including Will Wagner, Ernie Clement, Addison Barger. You want Spencer Horwitz in that lineup. When it comes to third base, that's the question. I think Ernie Clement deserves third base over Addison Barger, over Will Wagner, of course. I think it comes down to what moves are made in the offseason, who's picked up. I would assume that the Blue Jays are going to be chasing an outfielder that has power, and third base might be left as a quote-unquote unfilled position or hole that Ernie Clement will take over. So I think it's very possible if Ernie continues to play the way he is, that he's locked in for that third base role. And I think then that becomes Davis Schneider with how he's been playing. And again, we saw yesterday, a not great performance. I think Davis Schneider becomes that man off the bench until he can prove otherwise, that he deserves a spot in left field or in the middle of, or in the infield. But so far this season, Carter, I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say that Ernie Clement has sort of won everyone over with his play. And as much as we talked about early on that Ernie Clement's defense necessarily wasn't up to par, he's really played pretty solid defense when he's been in the lineup consistently. When he was thrown into games and would have to play in the infield, sometimes he would, bobble balls or not make the complete play. But since he's been in, more consistent, he's been very, very good.
Well, and just looking at Ernie Clement's defense, just in totality, he is in the 92nd percentile in outs above average. His arm strength isn't necessarily there. It's more about the accuracy. If you're not going to throw the ball way too high, way too left, way too right, if you're going to throw it a little bit low, it is what it is. At least you're giving your defender a chance at making a play. It might be a little bit tougher, but at least he has a chance to hit the glove on it. Sprint speed is the 82nd percentile. That one actually surprised me a little bit. The guy that's saving defensive runs, a guy that again has a decent arm in terms of accuracy and just can get to a lot of balls. That's what you want in the infield. Can play it literally anywhere you want. So going into my debate for this, I think you're right. I think Spencer Horwitz has to be your second baseman, even though he has spent a lot of his time at first base in the minor leagues. I think you got to cement Vladdy there. I guess Vladdy could be an option at third base, but I think they would have kept him at third base if they liked Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at third base. And he is one of the best first basemen in baseball when he is on. He does have a very good arm that helps him out as well. So I think in totality, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. probably going to stay at first base with how inconsistent he is on defense. Definitely don't hate him there. I think you have to slot in Spencer Horwitz right now at second base. Maybe you DH him a little bit. DH will be a discussion to have for the future. Bo Bichette's your shortstop. Don't think there's much debate there. Depending on what happens in the offseason, if there's a trade, obviously that is open. So that leaves third base, and that leaves me with about three options that you can put there. Depends how Will Wagner does. He's probably my least likely candidate to get the third base spot just because you haven't seen much from Will Wagner. We've gotten 2 games from him. So that leaves Ernie Clement, and that leaves Leo Jimenez. Leo Jimenez obviously is primary shortstop. Again, right now with Bo Bichette being out, he's played a lot there. He's played some second base, played some third base. But when you're looking at these two guys, they sort of do the same caliber of things. They're going to provide you good defense, good back-to-ball skills, not a lot of power. I guess you could experiment with Addison Barger in this position as well if you want more upside. Don't love the defense there, so I think you're right. I think you got to give it to Ernie Clement. He's got the safest floor out of all these players. Maybe more of a limited ceiling, but if you can get a guy that's playing third base in one of your, per se, forgotten positions, whether that's going to be third base, whether it's going to be an outfield spot, so you have a lot of competition in the outfield as well. A lot of this just comes down to how these prospects are going to play for the rest of the season. There are spots to win on this baseball team, so it really just depends which players want it the most, which players are going to perform up to standard. But right now, with Ernie Clement going into next season, he is your third baseman. I'm definitely not going to complain about that. Like I've said, he's done everything we've wanted and more with the opportunity he's been given. So if he does end up winning that third base slot over, I think it's going to be well-deserved, and I'm not going to have a problem with it at all going into 2025.
No, I agree. I agree, Carter. And I think as Blue Jays fans, it's a hard argument to have to argue against Ernie Clement. And I don't know why you would. I think he's a very likable guy, as we've talked about. It just seems weird to hate on him if you're sort of preying on his downfall. I think Ernie Clement right now is the number one option. But we'll have to wait and see. Like we said, there could be a lot of moves made and signings, whatever else in the offseason. So we'll have to see what happens. We got more to get into here. We want to talk the MLB pipeline as sort of, since the reshuffling of prospects throughout the system, there's been a bit of an update. So we'll give you guys a quick update on that. And then, we're going to get into the game series recap, our thoughts moving forward. So stay tuned right after this quick break. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app. It is one of my favorite apps on my phone. It's so nice to use. It gives you the best deals on tickets that you're going to find. They have their flash deals, their zone deals. And my favorite piece of Game Time is the view from the seat. I get to look around the stadium and pick exactly where I want to sit, and I know what it's going to look like. So there's no guessing when I'm buying my tickets. They also have all-in pricing, which is another huge feature. I know exactly what I'm going to pay. There's no hidden fees, nothing like that. And they have the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So, Carter, as I alluded to before we hit the break, there was a little bit of a prospect shuffle within the MLB's Blue Jays pipeline here. So I'm just going to go over some of the guys that have sort of moved around and sort of made some jumps or moved down a couple of spots. And most of the time, it's going to be on the new guys. I did talk about Orelvis Martinez being our number one guy, Trey Savage at number 2, Jake Bloss 3, Ricky Tiedemann down to 4 with the injuries. And I said I'm not going to go overly too far into the top 10 as we sort of talked about this. Leo Jimenez at number 6, Cal Steven at number 8, Charles McAdoo 9, Mako is at 10. Then we sort of take a look down, and Johnny King, number 17, which is actually a little bit surprising for me. I didn't think he'd be slotted this high, but good on him. Nice to see. Barrera is at number 18. Excuse me. Will Wagner was originally at the number 30 spot, has jumped up 10 spots to number 20. That is a huge one. He is panning out so well in his first couple appearances with the Toronto Blue Jays. We'll have to see what he can bring. Cutter Coffee, I think he's stayed right around the 24 to 26 mark. He's at 24 right now. Good for him. RJ Schreck up to 29. He was number 30. And Josh Rivera now at number 30, capping off the list, Carter. Just those are some of the guys that sort of really stand out to me more so than anybody else. But you know what? This list looks good. It looks more promising than when it did before this season started. And I think they had a really good draft. I really like the Toronto Blue Jays draft this past season. And then obviously the trade deadline with all the acquisitions really helped this squad as well.
Yeah, when you're looking at this top 30 prospects, I believe 3 of these guys are from the draft, and then you got 10 of them being from the trade deadline. So 13 out of the 30 prospects that are on your top prospect list are from this season. So you got to look at your prospect list, and you can think 2 things. You could think, wow, did we ever do a good job this season of getting all these new prospects? Or, holy crap, how bad were our prospects before this season? And both can be true at the same time, because we had one of the worst prospect systems in all of baseball before this point. Even now, I don't think it's gone up too many spots. I think we've gone up 2 to 3 spots. It's not a huge jump, but again, when you're looking at how depleted this prospect system was, you got to be okay with it for where the Toronto Blue Jays are. It's something that you kind of have to look at with a glass half full type of view. I mean, just where the Toronto Blue Jays season went, you got to get prospects. That's kind of what they did. I'm not sure who this first guy on the list is. I think for some reason he went on a long vacation. I'm not too sure what happened there. But there's obviously a lot of other guys that can make impacts on this team throughout this season. You're going to have Jake Bloss hopefully start a game for you this season. Will Wagner, John Clase would be another guy that I would like to see up with this major league team at some point. So with the prospects, I don't have too much to say about them because they are prospects. You could have the 30th guy outrank the second guy by the end of next season, depending on how their careers go. So it's really just all up in the air. You don't know exactly how these players are going to go. It's just more of a safe bet to bet on your higher rated prospects than it is to bet on your lower rated ones. But again, you're looking at David Schneider. You're looking at how his kind of career went up until obviously the back half of the season. And then you look at a guy like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who was a highly touted prospect for pretty much his entire career, and the different pressure sets and expectations that these players are going to have. So with the prospect system, again, you can take a little bit away from it. It's nice that it got better. But overall, I just want to see what these players can do at the MLB level. And I'm not going to say any of these players are going to be the next superstar until they can provide consistent MLB at-bats and perform at a certain expectation for a significant period of time.
Yeah, and I think the one that really stands out to me and sort of what impresses me with this list is the amount that they're updating it. I think post the Will Wagner, explosion that was the first 2 games of this Angels series, it was nice to see him get a huge bump, because I think that when you come into the MLB and you make it a direct impact right away, I think that's got to raise your stock. And I think moving forward, into next season, if the Blue Jays really do want to compete and they really do want to try to put a team out there that could contend, I mean, I don't know how that would be possible right now, but that's what obviously they're saying they want to do. You would probably have to look at moving some of these guys. That's just what's going to happen. If you're trying to make a trade. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can sign guys, but there's also trades, right? So they can go down that route. Having a more full prospect system allows them to make that moves if we're in a situation that they can make them. But overall, Carter, I mean, we're just with the whole pipeline and the prospects. I'm impressed with what happened. I don't like the position we're in. But it's nice to see a little bit of resurgence from this Toronto Blue Jays pipeline. So in saying that, I don't know if you have anything else to put here in this segment before we sort of get into the game recap. But other than that, that's pretty much all I have on the pipeline today.
Yeah, I just got a little bit of an extra thing to add. It's nice with these prospects. A lot of these times you don't see them for multiple years. You don't see them for 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 seasons. It is nice. We do get the luxury of seeing a few of these guys that were on this prospect list this season. Obviously, like I said, Jake Bloss, hopefully Will Wagner. Addison Barger just graduated off this list. You got Leo Jimenez. You once had Spencer Horwitz on that list, I believe, at the start of this season as well. So multiple players that you are seeing in real time. It's definitely nice to see some of these prospects unfold in front of your eyes. But I do have one thing that I want to get into just before the game talks. It does have something to do with the game. Toronto Blue Jays absolutely blew up the Los Angeles Angels today. But one thing that I'm confused about, I'm just completely out on, not sure why this is still a thing, is defensive indifferences or just allowing the team to steal bases in the last 2 innings of a game when you're blowing another team out. Just doesn't make sense to me. Again, you don't maybe what's the reasoning that we're doing this? If I'm playing baseball, it doesn't matter. I'm not taking my foot off the gas. These guys are trying to steal on me. I'm throwing the ball to second every single time, especially when I have Willie Calhoun taking a base on you. I think the whole point of this is to limit pitches. Again, I don't care where the Toronto Blue Jays are in their season. I don't care if we were 0-120 at this point. I still want to see our catchers trying to make these runners actually try and run to second base, especially when they aren't base stealers like Willie Calhoun. I just don't necessarily get the point of this defensive indifference stuff. Like, you're just allowing the other team to get runs. Is that what we're doing now? I'm just completely out on defensive indifferences and just allowing the other team to just take bases for free.
Carter, what are we playing? T-ball? Like how old are we? These are professionals and you're just letting them get bait. I don't know. Maybe it's the competitiveness in me and you that would not allow that to happen. I don't care how much we're killing a team. I remember in slow pitch last year, Carter, I tried to turn a solo double play in the finals when we were up 15 runs. Like, I'm just not allowing that to happen. That just goes against everything I've believed in as an athlete, as a competitor. I don't understand how these guys, I get it's a baseball, supposed to be, rule, but not rule, whatever you want to call it.
It's one of those unwritten rules that I just can't get behind. When people are swinging at 3-0 fastballs and other teams are getting mad at that, but then we're just are we just supposed to allow just every single runner to steal bases? Is that where we're at? It's like, oh, it's 10-0. This is unfair. Let's make it 10-3 so the other team has something not to cry about later on. I just don't get it. This is a professional sports league where you're getting paid millions. And again, are you in or out of them actually allowing it to be a defensive indifference? Or are you saying that hey, if you're going to allow them to steal, give them a stolen base? Willie Calhoun maybe really wants that stolen base. I know if it was Alejandro Kirk, I'd love to see him get that stolen base on the stat sheet. Where are you at with that? Are you allowing, are you liking that they're giving the defensive indifference there? Or do you think they earn the stolen base, even though it is being given up?
No, I think who cares? You got the base. If a team wants to let off the gas pedal, sucks to suck for them. too bad. I think you give it to him, right? Like, I don't know. It's like an intentional walk for me, Carter.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if there's a reason they're doing it. I want to know the reason behind it. I think just you want to end the game quicker. So leave a comment in the comment section. I'm just completely out on that. But I will say this is a nice debate to actually have to talk about, because the Toronto Blue Jays, third series sweep of the year. I don't care if it's against the Beausejour Barons that are U13 playing out of Beausejour, Manitoba. Again, you get a series sweep. Definitely going to love to see it. Doesn't matter where we are in the season. It is against the Los Angeles Angels, but here we are, 3 games in a row. Braden, what are your thoughts about today's game, or yesterday's game, I should say, and just this Los Angeles Angels series in totality?
Well, I do want to get into it here, and maybe this will lead us sort of into the breakdown a little bit. But I think just as a whole, sort of as an overview of this series, is where I'll sort of take this. Is sort of on par with you. I think as a baseball team, I would not go out there as a player and just try to lose baseball games or not care. I think every game you get that little bit of a competitive edge. Yeah, you might be taken out of it a little bit because you're not in a playoff spot right now. But at the end of the day, these are guys that want to compete and want to compete for jobs, money. So I think, showing some heart, showing some, with George Springer the other day getting tossed out, it's just showing some heart, showing that you care. That's the biggest thing for me right now is seeing who shows up and who cares about this baseball club enough to really try and compete. And I did see that this past series. I think I really did enjoy watching, I think more so than anything, the heart of this baseball team.
Yeah, I mean, they did a lot of things right. You obviously get very good starting pitching from your starting rotation, which you'll love to see. That starting rotation stats been struggling over the last few games. But before we do get into an extensive breakdown here, I think it would be a good time to take our last break of the day. Braden, I know there is one person that we do want to bring up. It's because we are the first listen. We appreciate you guys giving us your first listen, but there's a second listen that you guys should be following right after this episode.
Yeah, you got to check out Locked On MLB host Paul Sullivan. Sully, our guy, he had us on to talk about John Schneider earlier this season. That podcast has run so smoothly, dude. Like, I really wish we could run a professional show, but we get yapping, we get talking, we get throwing the ideas around. And Sully does an amazing job of sort of incorporating both. And I think that's a big part of why that show's so good. So make sure you guys go check out Locked On MLB. It should be in the description. And honestly, if you just go through our page, it's a featured channel as well. Or you can just search it up. It's not that hard. It's Locked On MLB. Like, what are we doing here? Anyway, like Carter said, let's take a quick break before we get into sort of an extensive, a little bit more extensive. I mean, again, it's a series sweep, so we do want to talk about it. And so, yeah, take a quick break. Just hold on there, and we'll be right back.
Today's episode is also sponsored by Prize Picks. So up to this point, I've watched pretty much every single Toronto Blue Jays game. And when I watch the Toronto Blue Jays games with my friends, we always find ourselves predicting the next outcome in at-bats, whether it's strikeouts, hitting a home run, or just getting a hit. We always find ourselves making these little wagers. Prize Picks gives me the ability not to just prove myself to my friends, but also to make some money off of my picks. So don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond into your Prize Picks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more than or less than and add them to your Prize Picks entries today. Prize Picks is very simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entries in as little as 60 seconds. If you know which players are going to perform on specific nights, this is a no-brainer. Download Prize Picks and start making your picks today. So you can download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for first deposit matchup to $100. It's code LOCKEDONMLB for first deposit matchup to $100.
Today's episode brought to you by Liquid IV. As you guys all know, I talk about Liquid IV all the time. It is one of my favorite drink choices. It keeps me hydrated. I always say I'm one of the most dehydrated people on the planet, and I need it. And they have this new flavor. It's a popsicle firecracker, and it is unbelievable. In the summertime, putting that in the water, it just fires me right up. It's the best hydration drink out there. I mean, Sunday mornings, I just hammer Liquid IV because I need it. Powered by Live HydroSense, an optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. So, Carter, we talked a little bit sort of all about a bunch of different stuff this week. This week has been jam-packed with a bunch of different things. I mean, there's just news left and right about the Blue Jays, guys we wanted to cover that maybe we haven't got to because of the trade deadline or just a bunch of things going on. So we do want to touch on today's game as well. I feel like we haven't really been doing that as much, and it's just because there's more important stuff out there. Carter, to touch on today's game, I mean, Daulton Varsho, man, I really hope that this guy can keep on some sort of pace, because when he's on, man, he is so fun to watch. Going 3 for 5 today, 3 RBI, the home run. Vladdy, 3 RBI, 3 hit as well, 3 for 5 with a home run. Him and Daulton Varsho having a very similar day. And Ernie Clement, 2 for 4, 2 RBI, a home run as well. Davis Schneider 0 for 3 again, which we'll get into Davis Schneider a little bit tomorrow or on Friday's episode. So tomorrow's episode. As you know, it's sort of he hasn't had the best stretch, and we will touch on that on tomorrow's episode, and it'll probably be a big part of it, because I think there's a bigger discussion to have around Davis Schneider, and we'll definitely cover that. Jose Berrios, 7 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 5 Ks, a walk. Obviously, I mean, it won't be a Jose Berrios day without giving up a moon ball. So there you go again. Carter, what's the biggest thing that stood out to you from this game?
For me, it's Will Wagner not playing. Why don't we have Will Wagner in the game? What are we doing here? John Schneider. We just made the comparison. Maybe it was a little bit of an unfair comparison, but to Will Wagner just maybe being the biggest beauty of all time. You want Will Wagner just go on this insanity run, and you're not giving him the ability to do that if you're taking him out of the baseball game. But other than Will Wagner not being in the game, I'll give you something that was actually there. And it was probably Daulton Varsho. Like you said, if you can get Daulton Varsho to get his bat activated, whether it's him just even hitting 240 and just getting some extra base hits, whether it's doubles, home runs, triples. Obviously, you see Daulton Varsho just on the base paths again today. Hits a hard ball into the right field, right on the first base, not on the first base line, but to the first baseman, hits off his glove, kind of goes into the right field, outfield, and he just makes a 1 bag single, 2 bag double. So, and that's exactly what you need from Daulton Varsho. Very smart base runner, a very smart player in all facets of the game. You just need him to have a consistent bat. Are you going to get that from Daulton Varsho? It's tough to say since he's been in the MLB for about 5 years now. He hasn't really shown you anything consistently. But we're still holding on to the hope that Daulton Varsho can turn into an even average hitter. If he's an above average hitter, he might be one of the best players in all of baseball with how good he is defensively, how good he is in every other facet of the game. But if it's not Will Wagner, it's Daulton Varsho. And it's always nice to see Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hit another moon ball for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, exactly. And the piece on Daulton Varsho is so big, right? Because we've seen he's a platinum glover. If he doesn't win at least a gold, I just don't know what to say about this league right now. I think it's absolutely. I'm going to be yelling corruption from the tallest building here in Winnipeg, which is about two stories high. But besides that, Daulton Varsho, if he can find the bat right now, it's so huge going into 2025. I think that gives you a little bit more hope and be able to have a little bit more of a core to build around, right? With Daulton Varsho, Bo Bichette, Vlad, Springer, and some of these young guys. I mean, that's what you're looking for. In saying that, Carter, I mean, the rest of the game, I don't know. Like, it was just a great game from the Toronto Blue Jays, from guys stepping up. That's what you need. You need a couple guys every game to have a big game, and that's how you win baseball games. So, overall, it was a great series. It really just is fun to watch when the Toronto Blue Jays actually win. I mean, yeah, it's a little too late here. But now it's looking, like I always say, it's looking for good pieces that can give you hope moving into 2025 and next season, the off season, and everything in general. If you can see good pieces coming out of 2024, I think that gives you more of an incentive. It gives Ross Atkins, who I hope is not still here, but probably will be, some incentives to go get some big name guys and build around this core that we have here already in Toronto.
We're going to need a power bat. Simple as that in the offseason, whether it's a fielder, whether it's simply just a DH, whether it's an infielder. We need a power bat, and we need it badly. One thing about this game is you saw 3 home runs. You just never really see 3 home runs in a Toronto Blue Jays baseball game unless they're being hit against the Toronto Blue Jays. So that was definitely a plus side for this game. We're going to need power. It's a lot easier to just hit 1 home run than it is to string together 4 straight base hits with how the pitchers are in this league. So if you can get power from pretty much anyone on this team, it's going to be helpful. And just, yeah, a lot of players playing good, a lot of individual performances that we could build on here. So overall, a nice series sweep against the Los Angeles Angels. But we got to continue to build. We got the Chicago Cubs coming up, obviously, on the weekend, but that is after an off day today, I guess you could say. So for the end of this episode, I got a couple more things to add. As the day we're recording this, it is Braden Owasco's birthday. He is turning 47 years old, so give a big clap to him. 3 years away from the big 50. You'll love to see that. Absolutely great stuff from you, Braden, and you're holding up pretty well, actually, for your old age.
I'm not going to lie to you. You said like 47, whatever you just said. I just tuned that out when you started yapping. I'm 24, so, you know, still in my prime. You know what? I don't necessarily think I look 24. I think these late nights are aging me a little bit, Carter, with these Blue Jays games. But it's weird, man. I don't know. I don't really feel much different. And maybe it's because we've been a little bit crazy busy lately. It's sort of, it was a good day, good birthday. Lots of fun. Worked an early shift. Everybody at work was fantastic. Went out for dinner. Did a couple other things later on. So it was a blast. And then we got the podcast recorded as well. And yeah, dude, I don't know. I mean, what else can you ask for, really?
Yeah, at least you got a Toronto Blue Jays win on your birthday. Definitely, a lot of people can't say that because it's hard to come by a lot of the Toronto Blue Jays wins. Maybe not much as of recently, but overall in the season, there's a reason that they are 7 games under 500. And before we do head out, I just didn't want to. I feel like we brushed over Jose Berrios a little bit. Absolute dog start. Love to see that from the kid. Just against Los Angeles Angels. Their lineup isn't necessarily the greatest thing I've ever seen. But always nice to see Jose Berrios absolutely dial. And actually don't mind him getting pulled at 84 pitches. I know some people, the analytics guys, might not love that. You want to see him pitch deeper into a baseball game. But where we are in your Toronto Blue Jays season, don't want to pitch a guy like Jose Berrios, a guy that you know what he's going to give you time in and time out. Let the bullpen throw a little bit. Let us see what we have from guys like Brian Little, Tommy Nance, whatever. You want to throw Braden Owasco out for his birthday? Sure, just throw him on the mound. At least it's not Jose Berrios throwing away his arm. It's Braden Owasco. But saying that, we want to thank you guys for watching. The likes, comments, subscriptions, everything recently has always been appreciated. We have noticed that about 68% of you guys have not subscribed to the channel. So if you are coming back every single day to watch our episodes, helps us out a ton and also keeps our podcast at the top of your page. Second listen, obviously we want us to be your first listen, but for your second listen, you can go to Locked On MLB. Sully's over there, hosts a great show. Perfect opportunity to check out pretty much any of the major storylines that are going on in the MLB. Does a very good job over there. But other than that, Braden, you get a series sweep against Los Angeles Angels. Are you taking a lot away from that for your 2024 Toronto Blue Jays?
No, but a little bit. I want to say no, but I want to say yeah. I think it's important to win these games. I think even still, you got to show the heart, and that's what we saw, and that's what I'm taking away from this. I'm seeing more heart with this Toronto Blue Jays team as of late, and it might be the injection of young talent. I don't know what it is, but it's nice to see a little bit of fight and a little bit of bite and a little bit of bark from this team.
Well, it's the best the Toronto Blue Jays have played in a very long time. So we might not be getting the losses that would probably be better for the team's future. But I said, I'm never going to bet against the Toronto Blue Jays. I'd much rather watch a team win baseball games 9-2 than lose a baseball game 9-2. Just obviously going to be a lot more fun to watch your team win, even if it is in the dog days, as if we're saying dog days of August. Not great for your Toronto Blue Jays. But like I said, thank you guys for watching. We got an off day episode coming where we're going to dive into David Schneider. A lot of good points on that podcast. Be sure to tune in. But other than that, I guess we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.